Hello YouTube. Today I am going to trim these pieces of teapot and then assemble them into a teapot. There we go. Now I'm going to stick that down using some wet clay. Just like so. And then we trim. So bottom first, then I will trim the lid, probably put a handle on top of the lid, and then assemble all the pieces. So now I think, never tried this, but I think I should be able to just throw a little bit of a handle on the top of this. I'm just going to glue it down a little, couple pieces like so. Hopefully I don't get a bunch of water on here and have those pieces stick, but we shall see. I'm just going to start with a ball of clay. I'm just going to score this up good. Score up the ball. Probably get rid of most of that. Wet the ball. And just stick it on there. And we'll see if I can keep it centered. That would be really neat. Okay, and these didn't stick, that's good. That off, sponge it out. Not bad, okay. So let's move that without messing it up. Tricky, I think. This is the spout. Now, it's pretty much the shape I want it. I just want to smooth out the surface a little bit. It got a little bit mucky when I took it off. So it doesn't have to be perfectly centered. I'm not doing any trimming. I'm just going to glue that down. We'll be cutting the bottom off of this as well. I think just a sponge should do the trick, just to remove the fingerprints that I put on it. Take the edge down. Just going to round out the outside edge and then I'll be trimming off the inside. Maybe I will trim it a little bit, see what happens. Okay, here's all my pieces. So spout has a square bottom right now. What I want to do is draw the contour of this pot at kind of an equal distance with it held up to the pot so that I can get a nice tight join. Now it's a little tricky, and usually I have to cut it a few times, but I want something like that so that it sits. And then once it sits on there, I just see which spots are sticking out and cut them off like that. So we need a little more around in here. So you don't want to bend this clay, it's pretty dry. Dry enough to handle right now. But you can carve it into shape pretty well. Just so it sits nice and tight against the teapot. Oh, so that's a pretty tight seam. If I cut a little off the inside of the spout, like here, seems like that's holding it out a little bit. That should get us snugged right up. That's pretty good. And that last little bit is going to smush right in when I wet it and score it. So now I'm going to align my spout so that it sits squarely. I'm going to look at it from above and in front just to make sure it's sitting nice. And then I'm going to draw around it. This is going to tell me where I need to score and where I need my holes so that this pot will actually pour. I don't really like these corners. I'm just going to cut them off. Just like that. There we go. Put it there and there. Okay, I found my handy dandy hole drill. Now I'm going to turn this in and cut out some holes. You could just push something through here like a pencil, but when you do that, you end up flexing the clay, and that's when you get cracking at this point when it's dry. So I'm going to pull these off from the inside. That'll help me. I used to make smaller holes in these just with a drill bit, but I found it was tricky to keep the glaze from sealing them up when I poured my glaze into it when I was finishing the pieces. So this bigger hole is a little nicer. There we go. So that should pour an adequate cup of tea, you would think. Just getting the little bits on the inside smoothed out and loose. Sometimes I'll do that when it's dry. So I've got my scoring tool now. I'm going to score all around here. And this is going to help me attach my spout. Just like that. And on here. I'm going to score a little deeper on this spout because it's a little drier than the pot. I'm going to wet the spout and present it to the pot. I'm going to push in on the spout and out on the pot from the inside and join those pieces of clay. Looks pretty good still. Smooth out the join. One thing I forgot to mention was a mistake I made when I first started making teapots, is you need this spout higher than here, otherwise, especially on a taller pot, I put the spout a little lower for kind of a visual effect, and you couldn't fill the pot up because of course the tea would run out of the spout hole. Nobody wants a useless teapot. Okay, so I'll finish up that join just with a damp sponge. A couple little dribblies on the spout there. See if I can get in there. A little tricky to get in here under the lip, but I should be able to just use my knife and smooth that out, like so. And then I'll just use a paintbrush to clean it up. Now, last thing on the spout, I always trim the bottom of the inside of the spout, and that just helps it pour a little better. If you have a nice thin edge at the bottom, it seems to not want to run back up the outside of the spout as badly. An important consideration when making a teapot or a pitcher, that it pours well. There we are. Now again, damp sponge. I'm just going to clean up what I cut out. Smooth that out. Pretty good. A little bit up here. Clean out of there. There. Spout. I'll show you a little closer. If it'll focus there. See how it's thinner at the bottom? Okay, now I've made a handle. I don't know that it's dry enough yet to apply. You see now it's quite a bit too big, but I'm going to let that sit a little longer and then I'll cut the bottom off of it. What I can do is check my lid fit, now that everything is firmed up without touching the handle I just made. That's not too bad. It's a little lopsided and I don't really want to grab that handle to move it over. I mean, I do want to, but I shouldn't or I'm going to wreck it. Maybe I can sneak this in here. No, not a good idea. I'm going to mess it up if I do that. I'll just be patient. I'll leave the lid on there. Ooh, I shouldn't have the lid on there because I have to put the handle on. So I'm going to flip it over. There. It looks like the lid will be fine. Yeah, it looks like it'll fit. Should be nice. That should work. So this handle, I'm not being really patient right now. I should probably let it set, but I want to get it on. So I'm going to go for it, and if it fails, I'll throw plastic on this guy and we can have it put a new handle on tomorrow. Just want to make sure that opening stays round throughout the process. I'm going to take this handle. I think I should trim like a good inch off of it and see where that sits. Maybe even a little more. And if a handle is, it's good that it sticks out but if they stick out too far, it makes the pot feel heavier than it is when you're lifting it. It needs to be out enough that a person can get most of their hand, or at least a couple fingers into to lift the pot, and not be too close to the pot that they'll burn their knuckles. You kind of like that. I like that shape. If it looks like it's sagging once I put it on, I'll just stick some clay under it until it firms up to hold it in place. So we'll score that. Just going to see where that's going to sit and score those spots. Right here. Oop. Here's something to consider with a teapot. You kind of want your handle directly opposite your spout, which I just had a lapse in concentration and was just going to put the handle on wherever. Thought I was building a mug there for a second. No harm done. We'll do that. A little bit of moisture on the handle part. And then I'm going to stick that right there. Same as my mugs, I like to start at the top. Get that glued in good. And then I'll flex it around, stick the bottom. This clay is really soft. And it's not going to want to hold its shape very well. But if I can lift this up and smooth that in, what I'll do is just take some of this extra handle clay and stick it right under here just to hold that up while I work on this. You don't want to overwork this, but I do want it to flow nicely into the pot. Now, kind of worst case scenario here, this will sag right out and fall off while I'm gone. So I'm just going to grab another piece of clay. Kind of uses a stilt. I'm going to prop this right up like this. And then move that piece like that, and that should sort of hold my shape, hopefully. Teapot. Thanks for watching.